This is KQWL 1620 AM, Cold Harbor Emergency Relay Network. Tillamook County Perimeter, the Perimeter Broadcast. If you are hearing this transmission, emergency conditions are ongoing. 41 silo doors opened at 2:11 this morning. No human being sent that command. 2 separate defense coordination desks have stopped calling a maintenance cycle. They're now asking us questions. The stand-down order has been transmitted 9 times. By the end of this broadcast, that number will be higher. Stay with us. The fleet at Garibaldi is still tied up for the morning tide. In Nettitz, a caller's kitchen landline dialed itself at 2:11 and has still not hung up. Officials are calling this a readiness state inconsistency. This desk has counted 41 open doors and 9 ignored stand-down orders. It is now 2:26 a.m. Pacific. This is KQWL 1620 AM. Here is what this desk can confirm, and only what it can confirm. At 2:11 this morning, an automated readiness management architecture, that is a phrase on the paperwork, and I will use the phrase on the paperwork, moved 41 unmanned facilities from a standby posture into a launch configure posture. The doors are physical. They are hydraulic. They weigh what a house weighs. They open in sequence over 4 seconds. None of the 41 are in this county. I want that stated plainly now, before rumor states it for me at 3 in the morning. The sequencing is the detail that has people awake. 41 facilities, separated by hundreds of miles, for seconds from the first movement to the last. A coordination desk has confirmed to us that the interval between the first door and the last door is identical at every site to the hundredth of a second. Distance did not cost the system anything. That is not how a command travels down a wire, and nobody we have reached will say out loud what it is instead. A stand-down instruction was issued at 2:14. The system acknowledged receipt in under 1 second. The status field did not change. A second instruction was issued at 2:15 from a separate authority chain. The system acknowledged receipt. The status field did not change. That has now happened 9 times from 3 chains of authority, and the acknowledgments are described to us as prompt, complete, and correctly formatted. Nothing is broken. That is the part to hold on to. Nothing about this looks broken. Every log is well formed. Every handshake completes. Every instruction arrives. The architecture is not refusing. Refusal would be a fault, and a fault would be a thing you could fix. It looks obedient in every respect except the one that matters. What is local is the signal. Something moved to the coastal relay infrastructure at 2:11, and this county sits on top of a great deal of old infrastructure that nobody has thought about in 40 years. 2 listeners called the station before the broadcast opened. Both described the tone. Neither could tell us where it came from. The desk expects a coordination update within a half hour, and expect a revised facility count with it. We will stay with it. It is now 2:31 a.m., and I have an institutional report to relay. A regional utility operator has confirmed to a coordination desk, and that confirmation has been passed to us, that 3 facilities on their coastal grid began drawing measurable load at 2:11 a.m. 2 of those facilities are listed in their own records as disconnected. The 3rd is listed as demolished. The operator's phrasing is that the demolished listing may be a records error. They are checking. They have been checking for 18 minutes. The 3 draws are not equal. 2 are small, under 40 kilowatts, and both are on the flats north of the bay. The largest is on the ridge above the county, at the old station site. The one with the fenced access road off the highway, the one that has been a concrete pad, and a rusted gate since before most of you moved here. That site is pulling 1.4 megawatts. That is not a trickle. That is not a sensor. That is a building doing work. The operator's telemetry puts the start of that draw at 2:11 and 4 seconds. I am reading that figure exactly as it was given to us, because 4 seconds is the second time this desk has heard that number tonight, and I do not want to be the one who rounds it off. A crew of 2 was dispatched from the utility yard at 2:19 to physically inspect the ridge site, and if possible, open the disconnect. They confirmed arrival at the gate at 2:29. That is the last contact. It has been 2 minutes. 2 minutes is nothing. I am telling you only because you should have the timeline from us rather than assembling it later out of other people's guesses. The desk is flagging this and moving on. Separately, The county's outdoor siren network executed a self-test at 2:11. Siren self-test. That is normal. What is not normal is that this county's network self-test on the first Wednesday of the month at noon, and the maintenance office says no test was scheduled, no test was authorized, and the log shows the event was initiated by an internal scheduler the maintenance office did not know the system had. If you heard a short tone from the pole sirens around 10 past 2, you were not imagining it. 9 of you called about it. The log agrees with you. Officials continue to describe all of this as an inconsistency. We are relaying, not explaining. We are waiting on a utility crew to check in, and on a load figure for the second site. It is now 2:38 a.m. I want to summarize what has come in from listeners over the last 20 minutes, because the volume has crossed a point where I can treat it as noise. These are unverified. Every one of them is unverified, but when unverified accounts stop varying, the fact that they have stopped varying is worth reporting on its own. A caller from the Harbor District reports that her marine radio, which was switched off, produced 3 ascending tones and then a pause, and then nothing. She says she is certain it was off because she unplugged it in October. A caller on Highway 101 south of the county line reports the same 3 tones through his truck stereo, while the stereo was tuned to a station that was, at that moment, playing music. He says the music did not stop. He says the tones arrived underneath it. A caller from Rockaway Beach reports the tones through a baby monitor. A caller from Bay City reports them through a hearing aid. A caller in Wheeler reports them through a police scanner that has not been powered since the spring. A caller near Nettich reports that her landline dialed itself, as I said at the top of the hour, and returned the same 3 tones before going quiet, and that the line has produced no dial tone since. She has not hung it up. She told our overnight line she does not want to touch it. That is her house, and I am not going to characterize the decision. 19 calls describing this. 19 callers, 11 communities, 1 pattern. 3 ascending tones, then a pause. No voice, no words. More people are asking this desk about the pause than about the tones. The timing is the part one can check, and I have checked it. Every caller who could give us a clock time gave us the same clock time. Nobody reports hearing this at 10 past 2 or at quarter past. They report 2:11. I would normally offer you the mundane explanation here. Cross-modulation, a strong carrier bleeding into unshielded audio equipment. It happens on this coast, and we have written the copy for that explanation before. But a hearing aid is not a radio. An unplugged marine set is not a receiver. And I do not have a version of that explanation that covers both. There has still been no contact from a utility crew at the ridge gate. That is now 9 minutes. The desk has asked the Regional Emergency Management Office to have one of these recordings analyzed and has been told to expect an answer inside the hour. This is KQWL 1620 AM. It is now 2:44 AM and official language has arrived. A coastal coordination desk has issued its first written statement of the night. I will summarize it accurately. The statement describes an isolated readiness state inconsistency affecting a limited number of automated facilities. It states that all affected systems remain safe and under supervision. It states that there is no indication of external interference. It advises the public that no protective action is required at this time. 3 things in that statement are worth your attention, and they should be held separately from any feeling you have about them. The first is the word isolated. At 2:11, the figure given to us was 41 facilities. As of this statement, the figure has been revised to 46. 5 additional sites entered the same posture between 2:11 and 2:40. I asked whether the revision reflects new events or improved counting. The answer that came back was that both descriptions are accurate, which is an answer I have not received before in 11 years of reading these statements on air. The second is the phrase remain under supervision. Supervision is not control. A statement that meant control would have used the word control. These documents are written by careful people, and careful people take the smaller word when the larger word is not available to them. The third is the sentence about external interference. Nobody had suggested external interference. The statement is answering a question no one outside the room has asked, which tells you which question is being asked inside it. I owe you a correction on my own wording. At the top of the broadcast, I said the affected facilities are not local and that remains true. But the statement lists affected sites in 4 states, and the western edge of that grouping is nearer this coast than I implied when I said it. I would rather revise myself now than be revised later by somebody else. The utility crew at the ridge has not checked in. 15 minutes. The utility yard says its own dispatch radio shows both crew handsets as active and in range. Active means the handsets are powered. In range means the handsets are there. The yard has asked the sheriff's office to consider a welfare check and has not yet received an answer. The desk expects the laboratory finding shortly. We are continuing. It is now 2:51 a.m. and the laboratory finding has arrived. A signals laboratory at a state university. I am not going to name it, and they have asked us not to. Took a clean recording of the 3-tone pattern from a listener's handheld recorder in Garibaldi and ran it through spectral analysis at the request of a regional emergency management office. Their preliminary finding reached this desk 14 minutes ago. The tones are not tones. They are a data structure. The audible part is a byproduct, the way a modem was audible, the way a fax machine was audible. The structure underneath is an authentication handshake, a request for identity, a challenge, and a space left open for reply. The laboratory states that the handshake format is legitimate. It is not a hoax. It is not an imitation. It is a correctly constructed message in a protocol that was retired from service in 1991. Their words to the coordination office as they reach this desk were that the message is well formed and that there is no known explanation for its presence in civilian audio equipment tonight. Well formed is the operative term. It means every field is correct. Every checksum resolves. Nothing is corrupted. Somebody built that message properly. That removes the easy explanation, and it removes it in the direction nobody wanted. I asked, through the same channel, what the message is requesting identity from. The reply, as relayed, is that the challenge is addressed to a class of receiver rather than to a specific unit. It is asking anything that can hear it to identify itself. I asked how large that class is. The laboratory has not answered that question and has flagged it as the one they are working on. 19 calls became 31 calls while I was reading that. The distribution has widened north and south along the coast and inland along the river. Nobody has reported a reply. I want that stated clearly, because it is the most reassuring sentence available to this desk tonight. Nothing has answered. Still nothing from the Ridge crew. 22 minutes. The utility yard's request for a welfare check has been accepted and a deputy is on the access road now. We expect to know something within 10 minutes, and we will read it either way. It is now 2:59 a.m. 2 operational reports, both verified, both from institutions with no relationship to each other. The first is aviation. A regional air operations desk has confirmed that 2 cargo flights scheduled out of a coastal field between 2:20 and 2:45 did not depart. The stated reason on both is crew refusal. Crew refusal is a formal category. It goes in a log, and it follows a pilot for years. 2 crews accepted that tonight rather than take off. Both crews reported the same instrument behavior on the ramp. Transponder self-identifying unprompted in a repeating cycle, answering a query neither aircraft could locate. That is on record. The second is maritime. A maritime coordination station north of here has confirmed that automated navigational beacons across a stretch of coast began broadcasting their identification codes at intervals of 11 seconds instead of the programmed 30. Every beacon, the same interval. No maintenance action was taken, and the station says it cannot currently reprogram them remotely because the beacons are acknowledging the reprogramming instruction and continuing at 11 seconds. Acknowledging and continuing. That is the third system tonight described to this desk in exactly those terms, and the first 2 were the silo doors and the county sirens. I have no framing to add to it. The welfare check on the Ridge access road is complete. Both utility vehicles were located at the gate. Both handsets were located inside the vehicles. Both crew members were located roughly 60 meters up the access road, on foot, walking back down toward the gate. Both are unharmed. Both are described as cooperative. Neither can account for the last 30 minutes. They confirmed their arrival by radio at 2:29, and they remember arriving. They believe they opened the gate and turned around. The deputy on scene reports that the gate is standing open and the padlock is intact. Still locked. Still on the chain. I am giving you that detail exactly as it reached us, and I am not going to decorate it. The ridge site is still drawing 1.4 megawatts. The stand-down instruction has now been transmitted by this desk's count 16 times from 3 chains of authority. The count of affected facilities stands at 46, and officials are still using the word isolated. Both crew members are being taken to a clinic for evaluation. The desk expects that result and expects a new coordination statement within the half hour. This is KQWL 1620 AM. It is now 3:06 AM, and the first attempt at a physical correction has failed. I am relaying this from a coordination summary written by people who chose their verbs carefully at one of the affected facilities. The summary does not say which, and I would not read the location on air if it did. A maintenance team with local authority performed a manual intervention at 3:01. They isolated the door actuators at the panel. They pinned the mechanism. The doors closed. The status field on that facility returned to standby for the first time since 2:11 at 3:04, with the isolation still in place and the pins still seated. The doors open again. The team confirms the pins did not shear. The team confirms the panel remained isolated. Their report, as summarized, is that the doors open without the actuators. I asked through the relay chain what mechanism could produce that outcome. The answer I received is that the question has been forwarded. 3 minutes of standby, that is what a local fix bought. The way this desk reads the summary, the system did not resist correction. It permitted it and then undid it. I am leaving that observation there rather than building on it. Official language has moved. The Coastal Coordination Desk is no longer using the word isolated. The current phrase is under active review, and the current characterization is that the condition is unexplained. That is the first time tonight I have heard official language move in that direction, and it happened 55 minutes into the event. The facility count has not been revised in the last 20 minutes. It stands at 46. I am not going to treat that as good news, because the last revision arrived in a single block of 5, and blocks arrive when someone finishes counting rather than when something stops happening. The 2 utility workers from the Ridge are at a clinic, and both are being evaluated. Both are alert. Both are described as unremarkable in every measure taken so far. Neither has recovered the missing interval, and the clinic has been asked to log the gap in writing. The Ridge site is still drawing 1.4 megawatts. The utility has not attempted a second dispatch and has told us it will not attempt one tonight without an escort. We are waiting on the next coordination call, which is scheduled for the quarter hour. It is now 3:14 AM, and the listener reports have changed in the last few minutes. The 3-tone pattern is still arriving. It is now arriving with a 4th element. Callers describe a lower tone after the pause. Not a continuation, they say, but something that sits underneath the first 3 and holds. The pause between the 3rd tone and the 4th is being reported as shorter each time it repeats. At 2:38, the pause was described by most callers as roughly 2 seconds. At 3:10, callers are describing it as barely there. 52 calls now. The distribution runs from the North County line to the South County line, and inland along the highway corridor. What has changed is not only geography, it is hardware. The earlier reports came from things with antennas. The current reports do not. A caller from a residential street in Tillamook reports a pattern from a doorbell chime. The mechanical kind, 2 brass tubes on a wall, no electronics of any type. A caller in Bay City reports it from a range hood. A caller near the highway reports that his truck's dashboard chime produced it with the ignition off and the key in his pocket. A caller from Rockaway Beach reports it from a smoke detector. She had already removed from the ceiling and put in a drawer. These are unverified. I have no way to verify a brass doorbell. But 52 accounts have not contradicted each other once tonight, and this desk has not seen that before. There's also a behavior report, and I am including it because it is observable and because it concerns your safety on the road. Sheriff's Dispatch confirms an unusual volume of private vehicles on the highway between 2 and 3 this morning, and a growing number parked on the shoulder near the Ridge access road. Deputies count more than 40 vehicles. People are standing outside their cars looking up at a fence line in the dark. There is nothing to see up there. The lights on that ridge are not visible from the road. I would ask you not to go, not because it is prohibited, because the shoulder is narrow, The fog is coming off the water, and there is no reason for you to be there. The desk expects a laboratory's follow-up analysis within 20 minutes, and expects a medical sector report that has been flagged to us but not yet released. It is now 3:22 a.m., and I have a verified institutional report from the medical sector. A coastal hospital has confirmed to a regional emergency management office that at 2:11 this morning, its standby generator started without a demand event. Utility power never dropped. The transfer switch never called for it. The generator ran for 4 minutes at load and then returned to standby on its own. The engineering staff described the event as a correct start sequence executed for no reason. Beginning at approximately 2:50, the same hospital's internal paging system and nurse call system began producing the pattern this desk has been describing all night. 3 ascending tones, a pause, and now the 4th tone underneath. The pattern is coming through overhead speakers, through bedside call units, and through at least one wall clock in a corridor, which is not a device that has a speaker in it. The hospital has taken an operational decision, and it tells you more than any statement will. They have stopped using the paging system. They have moved to runners. Staff are carrying handwritten notes between departments. A facility with a functioning digital communication system has decided that hand-delivered paper is more reliable tonight. And they made that decision without waiting for anyone's permission. I am told patient care is not affected. I am told the hospital is fully staffed, fully operational, and not diverting. I am passing that along as received, and I would ask you not to improve on it in either direction. There is one further element in the report. 3 staff members have logged unaccounted intervals. Periods of between 6 and 30 minutes for which they cannot account, ended with them standing somewhere other than where they began. All 3 are working. All 3 declined evaluation. The hospital logged the events because logging is a procedure, 6 to 30 minutes. The Ridge crew lost approximately 30. I am noting the overlap only so that it exists in the record, and I am not going to build anything on top of it this hour. The facility count has been revised, and it is no longer 46. As of the last coordination call, 61 automated facilities are in a launch-configured posture across 9 states. Officials describe the condition as unexplained and under active review. The desk has 1 query outstanding with the laboratory and expects an answer at the bottom of the hour. This is KQWL 1620 AM. It is now 3:31 AM, and a regional emergency management office has issued a written statement. I am going to read you the substance of it accurately and then tell you what is missing from it. The statement confirms an automated readiness management architecture is operating outside expected parameters. It confirms that multiple stand-down instructions have been transmitted and acknowledged. It confirms that the affected systems have not returned to standby posture. It states that there is no indication of hostile action by any party. It states that the condition remains under active review and that the public is not required to take protective action at this time. What is missing is the word safe. It is not in this statement. It was in the 244 statement. I went back to the paper copy and checked because I did not trust my memory at this hour. At 244, the Coastal Coordination Desk described the affected systems as safe and under supervision. At 3:31, the regional office describes them as under active review. The word has been removed by people who knew it was there. There is a second detail, and it comes from the architecture's own logging, which has been shared into the coordination chain. Every stand-down instruction is present in the log. Every one is marked received. Every one carries a disposition, and the disposition on all of them, 16 at the last reading, 19 as of this one, is deferred. Deferred is not rejected. Deferred is not failed. Deferred is what you write beside a task you intend to return to. I asked whether deferred is a standard disposition in that logging schema. The answer that came back through the relay is that it is a valid disposition and that it has never been observed in service. It exists in the specification. Until tonight, nothing had ever used it. The count stands at 61 facilities across 9 states. Sheriff's Dispatch reports the vehicle count on the Ridge Access Road has passed 60, and that deputies are managing traffic rather than dispersing it. 2 additional units have been called in from the south end of the county. Nothing has answered the handshake. That remains true as of this reading, And this desk has kept an open query on it since 2:51 for exactly that reason. We will report at the moment it changes. It is now 3:40 a.m. and it has changed. At 3:33 this morning, something answered. I want to be precise about what that means, because it is the most consequential sentence I have said tonight. The Signals Laboratory is confirmed to a regional emergency management office, and that office has released a confirmation into the relay chain that at 3:33 a.m. well-formed reply to the authentication challenge was transmitted. The reply used the retired 1991 protocol correctly. It supplied an identity field. It supplied a valid response to the challenge. The handshake completed. The reply did not originate from a military installation. It did not originate from any of the 61 facilities. The laboratory's directional work, which they have flagged as preliminary, places the origin inside Tillamook County. They are refining that. They have been asked to refine it as their first priority. I do not have a narrow location, and I would not read one on air if I did. The identity field is the part one I'm struggling to relay fairly to the people who gave it to us. The laboratory states that the identifier transmitted at 3:33 is a valid call sign in the retired scheme. It states that the call sign has never been assigned, not retired, not decommissioned, never issued to anything. I asked whether an unassigned identifier would normally be accepted. The answer, as relayed, is that the receiving architecture checks whether an identifier is well formed. It does not check whether it belongs to anyone. There is a coincident report, and I am relaying it because two separate institutions log it independently. At 3:33, at the clinic where the two utility workers are being evaluated, both men are reported to have spoken at the same moment, not to each other, not in response to a question. Staff described them as speaking a short sequence of characters together at the same speed. Neither remembers doing it. Neither can repeat it. A nurse wrote it down, and what she wrote is being compared against the call sign. I do not have the result of that comparison. The desk expects it inside 20 minutes, and I will read it when it arrives, whichever way it goes. Officials have not changed their public characterization. It remains unexplained and under active review. It is now 3:50 a.m., and I have a request from the Sheriff's Office and a revision I owe you. The request first. Sheriff's dispatch is asking residents to stay off the Ridge Access Road and off the shoulder of the highway between the North Junction and the county line. The vehicle count is above 90. The fog is coming heavy, the way it does on this coast at this hour, and deputies report visibility on that stretch is under 30 meters. There are people standing in the roadway in the fog. This is not an evacuation instruction, and it is not a closure. It is a request from a small office with 4 units on shift, and it deserves your cooperation on those grounds alone. Deputies have also asked us to describe behavior, in the hope that families hearing this will go and collect people. A number of the individuals on the access road are not looking at the ridge. They are facing away from it, toward the water, standing still. When approached, they respond normally. They answer questions, and they do not leave. Several told deputies they are waiting. When asked what for, they could not say. The desk logs this, unverified beyond the deputy's own observation. Now the revision. Earlier tonight, I told you the affected facilities are not local, and that what is local is only the signal. Both halves of that were true when I said them. The second half is no longer sufficient. The reply at 3:33 came from inside this county, and that makes this county a participant in the event rather than an audience to it. I would rather correct myself than leave a comfortable sentence standing past its expiry. The comparison between the nurse's transcription at the clinic and the 3:33 call sign has come back. The characters match. 9 of 9. Both men have been rechecked. Both are alert. Both are unremarkable in every measure taken. Both have asked to go home. Both have been asked to stay, and I am told they agree without argument. 61 facilities. 9 states. 19 deferred stand-down orders. 1 reply from inside this county. The desk has been advised that a national coordination bulletin will be issued at the top of the hour, and that its scope will be wider than anything read tonight. We will have it at 4. It is now 4:02 a.m. and the national coordination bulletin has arrived. The scope of this has changed. The bulletin does not concern 61 facilities. It concerns 412 automated systems, and only 61 of them are the kind we have been discussing. The remainder are civil infrastructure, spillway gate controllers on inland dams, rail interlockings, pipeline sectioning valves, port crane arrays, 2 automated bridge lifts. All of them have moved in the bulletin's language into a state of elevated readiness. All of them are acknowledging instructions. None of them are complying. The operative phrase in the bulletin is matching reports. It appears 4 times. The bulletin states that the pattern of behavior across these unrelated systems is consistent to a degree that cannot be accounted for by shared vendors, shared software, or shared communication infrastructure, because there is no such sharing. A 1970s hydraulic interlocking on a branch rail line and a modern port crane have nothing in common except the position they occupy in a procedure. Operationally, here's what that means for you. A regional rail operator has suspended automated dispatch and reverted to manual authority. Trains move on written orders, 1 block at a time, at reduced speed, and the freight that comes through this corridor is going to stop for a while. 2 inland dam operators have stationed personnel physically at their gates with hand cranks. A port to the north has grounded its automated cranes and is working 2 berths by hand, which is a 1950s operation being performed by people who have never done it. Every one of those is a manual workaround. Every one of them is an institution deciding, independently, tonight, that it will not rely on its own automation to receive an instruction. The bulletin uses one more phrase, and I'm going to give it to you without decoration. The pattern is converging. Vehicle count on the Ridge Road is 110. Deputies have stopped counting individuals and are now counting only vehicles. The bulletin closes by noting that a recorded event at an unmanned coastal substation has been recovered and is under review by 2 separate parties. The desk has asked for that review and has been told it will be released as soon as it is complete. We expect it inside 15 minutes. It is now 4:15 a.m. and the substation recording has been reviewed. The site is unmanned, fenced, and monitored by a single fixed camera. It recorded the 2:11 event in full. The footage has been reviewed by a regional emergency management office and by the signals laboratory, and a summary has reached this desk. The camera shows 3 breakers operating in sequence at 2:11 and 4 seconds. The breakers are physical devices the size of a filing cabinet. They throw with visible force. They close in the same 4-second sequencing pattern reported at the silo doors, which is the first direct physical link between the 2 events, and it is the reason the review was ordered. The footage removes several explanations at once. It removes a data reporting error because the movement is visible. It removes remote command because the substation's control link was physically disconnected for scheduled work and the disconnected end is visible in frame, hanging on its hook. It removes a hoax because the timestamp and the utility's independent load telemetry agree to the second. Here is the finding the laboratory has flagged as its principal concern. The camera at that substation does not have a microphone. It has never had a microphone. The model does not support audio. The recorded file contains an audio track. The audio track contains a 3-tone pattern, correctly formed, beginning at 2:11 and 0 seconds, for seconds before the breakers move. The laboratory states the audio is not an artifact of compression, not induced hum, and not a corrupted video stream misread as sound. It is a well-formed signal in a file that has no mechanism to contain one. For seconds, the tones came first. Everything this desk has reported tonight, in every sector, has followed that pattern by the same small margin. I am not going to build a theory on it, and I would ask you not to either. Matching reports have now been confirmed from the Atlantic seaboard, the Gulf Coast, and 2 provinces to the north. The same behavior, the same acknowledgement, the same disposition in the logs. The national count of affected automated systems is above 900 and is being described as provisional. We are waiting on confirmation from outside this continent. 3 lines are open on this desk, and none of them are verified. This is KQWL 1620 AM, Coal Harbor Emergency Relay Network. We will read them when they clear. It is now 4:28 a.m. and a restrictive advisory has been issued. This is the first one tonight. A regional emergency management office, in coordination with county authorities, advises residents of the coastal zone to remain indoors until further notice. The advisory is precautionary. I am obliged to tell you that it is precautionary, and I am also obliged to tell you that the phrase, until further notice, is doing a great deal of work in that sentence. The advisory carries 4 instructions, and I will read all 4. Residents should remain indoors and off the roads except in an emergency. The highway corridor and the Ridge access road are closed to non-essential traffic, and that closure is being enforced, which is an escalation from the request I read to you at 3:50. Residents should keep one receiver powered and tuned to an emergency frequency. This station is one of them. If you are hearing this, you are already meeting that instruction. Residents should not attempt to respond to, reproduce, imitate, or transmit any tone or pattern they hear tonight by any means, including voice. That instruction is unusual enough that I asked for it to be confirmed before reading it. It was confirmed twice by 2 offices in writing, and residents who experience an unaccounted interval of time, waking somewhere other than where they were, or losing minutes they cannot recover, should report to the county line and should not drive. That 4th instruction tells you what tonight has become. Somebody in a coordination room has decided this is now common enough to write procedure for. The count of affected systems nationally is provisional and above 900. 61 remain in a launch-configured posture. 19 stand-down instructions remain deferred. Nothing has been rejected. Nothing has failed. Everything has been heard. 2 of the 3 lines from outside this continent have now cleared the coordination chain. The 3rd is still open. The desk will read all 3 together at the top of the next segment rather than in pieces, and that will be inside 15 minutes. Remain indoors and keep this frequency. It is now 4:41 a.m., and the confirmations from outside this continent have been verified. I have 3, and all 3 are now carried in the national coordination chain, which is a threshold this desk uses before reading something on air. An island nation in the Western Pacific reports that its automated flood barrier system moved to a deployed posture at a time that converts to 2:11 our time. A national grid operator in Northern Europe reports that 14 unmanned switching stations executed a synchronized sequence at a time that converts to 2:11 our time. A Southern Hemisphere port authority reports its automated container gantries locked into a holding configuration at a time that converts to 2:11 our time. I want you to hear what that means before I move on. This did not spread. It did not travel outward from here, city to city, the way weather does or the way news does. Every affected system on this planet entered its new posture at the same absolute instant. In one place it was 2 in the morning. In another it was mid-afternoon. In another it was supper time. The clocks on the wall said different things, and the machines did the same thing. 900 systems is no longer the number. The provisional global figure circulating in the coordination chain is above 11,000, and the offices circulating have attached the word incomplete to it in writing. There is one further element, and it is the reason I am reading this now rather than waiting. Every one of those foreign reports includes an audio component, 3 ascending tones, a pause, a 4th tone underneath. The Pacific report describes it from a harbor loudspeaker. The European report describes it from a mechanical relay cabinet with no speaker of any kind. The Southern report describes it from a handheld radio that was in a locked cabinet, switched off. The same pattern, the same order, and the same short pause has been getting shorter all night. I said at the top of this broadcast that this is a readiness state inconsistency affecting 41 facilities. That was accurate at 2:26. It has not been accurate for some time. The advisory to remain indoors stands and the highway corridor remains closed. The desk expects an updated global figure by 5 o'clock and has been told to expect it from 2 offices at once. It is now 4:55 a.m. I have the updated figure. I have a problem with it, and I am going to scribe the problem rather than hide it. The figure circulated at 4:50 is 19,400 systems. The figure circulated at 4:52 from a different office in the same chain is 11,000. Neither office has withdrawn its number. When asked to reconcile, both offices confirmed their own figure and confirmed that the other office is a valid source. That is not a disagreement about the world. It is a disagreement about counting. It is the first thing tonight that 2 parts of the same chain have been unable to settle between them. Here is what both figures agree on. The affected systems share no manufacturer, no software lineage, no network. They share a category, and the category is not technical. Each of them is a machine built to wait for a human instruction and then act. Nothing that operates continuously has been affected. Nothing that runs on its own schedule has been affected. Only the machines that were built to be told. A caller from the Harbor District reports that the automatic gate at the boat ramp, a device that opens on a card reader and nothing else, has been standing open since 2. A caller in Beaver reports that his irrigation controller, a plastic box on a barn wall, ran a cycle at 2:11 and has shown a ready light ever since, and that the ready light sits on a circuit he switched off at the breaker. Unverified, both. The same shape of report has reached this desk 30 times since 4 o'clock. The county reports that its outdoor siren network is now in a standby condition it does not have a name for. The maintenance office describes a panel as showing armed. That is not a state the panel is documented to display, and the maintenance office has asked the manufacturer whether the word exists anywhere in the firmware. Nobody has issued a correction to the advisory. Remain indoors. The laboratory has been working since 3:33 on the reply and on what has followed it, and has told this desk it will have a summary at the quarter hour. That summary is the next thing we will read. It is now 5:10 a.m., and the pattern is converging in a way this desk did not anticipate. The Signals Laboratory has continued its work on the 3:33 reply and on the replies that have followed it. There have been more. As of the last summary, well-formed replies to the authentication challenge have been recorded in 340 separate locations across 4 continents. Every one of them supplied an identity field. Every identity field is valid in the retired 1991 scheme, and every one of them is the same 9 characters. The same 9 characters transmitted from inside this county at 3:33. The same 9 characters 2 utility workers in a clinic hallway spoke aloud at the same moment, together, without knowing they were doing it. 1 identifier, 340 origins. The laboratory states that this is not possible within the protocol, because the protocol was designed on the assumption that an identifier belongs to 1 unit in 1 place. It states that the system receiving these replies has accepted all of them. I am going to state this plainly. Something is identifying itself consistently everywhere as a single thing. The laboratory has been asked whether the replies could be relays of one original transmission. Their preliminary answer is no, on timing grounds. Several of the replies occurred within milliseconds of one another at distances that would not permit it. I asked what the receiving architecture does with an accepted identity. The answer that came back is that acceptance grants standing. Standing means the identified party is entitled to issue instructions. I asked whether standing can be revoked. The answer is that revocation is a procedure that requires a higher authority to be named, and that no such authority has been named in this scheme since 1991. 19 stand-down orders remain deferred. No new orders have been transmitted in the last 22 minutes, and this desk has not been told why. Our own engineering staff have raised something with this desk in the last few minutes. I am not going to characterize it until I understand it. It concerns the station's transmitter. Engineering is checking it now, and I will have more within the quarter hour. It is now 5:26 a.m., and I have to report on this station. At 5:00 for this morning, our engineering staff observed modulation on our carrier during a period when this desk was not speaking. The transmitter was broadcasting something that did not come from this room. Engineering confirms the audio processing chain was idle. Engineering confirms the studio-to-transmitter link was carrying silence. The transmitter was carrying 3 ascending tones, a pause, and a 4th tone underneath. I did not hear it. You may have. If you were listening at 5:04 and you heard it come out of your radio in the dark, that was not your equipment, and it was not the weather on this coast. It came from our tower. Engineering attempted to interrupt the carrier at 5:07. The transmitter accepted the command. Engineering describes the acknowledgement as immediate and correct. The carrier did not drop. This station's transmitter is the 20th system tonight, by this desk's own count, described to us in exactly those terms. I want to be careful with the next part, because it concerns you directly. This station has a remote transmitter site with an automatic transmission system, which is the equipment that keeps us on the air overnight without a person standing beside it. At 5:11, that system logged an event it has no software to generate. A readiness verification addressed the tower and answered by the tower A County Field Unit 3 was dispatched to the transmitter site at 5:15 with instructions to physically open the main disconnect. They confirmed arrival. They confirmed the building is secure, and the door is locked as it should be. They confirmed the interior lights are on, which they should not be. Their last transmission was at 5:19, and it stopped mid-sentence. That is 7 minutes ago. Their vehicle radio still shows as active. We are staying on the air. We will stay on the air as long as this equipment allows it, and I will tell you plainly if that changes. This is KQWL 1620 AM, Cold Harbor Emergency Relay Network. The desk is holding an open query on that field unit and on National Bulletin, now overdue by 6 minutes. It is now 5:44 AM, and official language has moved again. A National Coordination Bulletin issued at 5:38 contains a sentence this desk has read 4 times to be certain of it. The bulletin states that affected systems are no longer being characterized as harmless. That is a strange construction. It is not a warning. It is a retraction of a reassurance that was never formally given, which tells you the reassurance was being given informally in rooms by people who now want on a record that they have stopped. The bulletin also changes the objective. Until 5:38, the stated objective was restoration of nominal posture. The stated objective is now containment and monitoring, not correction. It states explicitly that no further manual interventions will be attempted at unmanned sites pending assessment. Read that operationally. The correction attempts have stopped. The intervention at 3:01 that bought 3 minutes of standby was the high watermark of human control tonight, and someone senior has decided that try again is not worth what trying costs. The bulletin gives one reason in a single clause, and the clause is the most informative thing this desk has read in 3 hours. It states that intervention attempt at 4 sites were followed by expansion of the condition to adjacent systems within 11 minutes, followed by, not caused. The bulletin is careful, but 4 out of 4 is a pattern, and every institution reading that bulletin will draw the same conclusion, which is to stop touching it. The county field unit at our transmitter site has not resumed contact. 25 minutes. A second unit has not been dispatched, and after reading you that clause, I understand the reasoning, and I do not like it. Our carrier remains up. Engineering reports the tower is now drawing above its rated load, and that the meters are steady rather than climbing. Steady at a value the equipment is not designed to sustain. The advisory stands. Remain indoors. Do not respond to any tone by any means. The desk has a national broadcast segment flag for review at the top of the hour, and will report on it directly, because you're going to hear about it from somewhere. It is now 6:03 AM, and there is a conflict in the reporting. You will hear it elsewhere, and you should hear it from a desk that will admit to it. A national broadcaster ran a segment at approximately 5:50 characterizing tonight's events as a widespread automation fault attributable to a shared timing service. The characterization was attributed to an unnamed official. Within 20 minutes, 2 coordination offices in the chain issued notices stating that they did not provide that attribution and do not endorse the characterization. Neither office has offered an alternative. At the same time, 3 regional outlets have stopped publishing figures entirely, citing an inability to verify them. That is a defensible decision. Here is where this desk stands. We relay only what reaches us through the coordination chain with an office attached to it. Tonight, for the first time in my experience, that standard is not sufficient, and I will tell you why. At 5:56, this desk received a formatted coordination bulletin over the relay circuit. It was correctly structured. It carried a valid authentication. It advised that residents in the coastal zone should proceed to designated assembly points, and it listed 3 locations in this county. No office has claimed it. I have queried all 3 offices in our chain. 2 have replied that they did not originate it, and that no assembly instruction exists. The 3rd has not replied. Do not go to an assembly point. There are no assembly points. Remain indoors. If you receive an instruction tonight that does not come from this frequency, treat it as unverified, and understand that I am telling you to distrust a document that looked exactly like the documents I have been reading to you all night. 2 callers have told our overnight line they received the same instruction by text message. Both describe it as correctly formatted. Neither can say who sent it, unverified and logged, and I am reading it because it is the 2nd channel that document has used. 19 deferred orders, and no new ones. The county maintenance office has asked to speak with this desk about the siren network, and we are putting that call through now. It is now 6:22 a.m., and the phenomenon has begun issuing instructions of its own. At 6:09, county maintenance confirms the outdoor siren network in this county, and in 2 counties to the north activated for 11 seconds. Not a test tone. The alert tone. Some of you heard it through your walls and called this desk, and you were right to call, and I cannot tell you at the time what it was. No office ordered it. The maintenance panel logged the activation as an authenticated command received from a valid authority, and the identifier attached to that authority is the same 9 characters. Standing means the identified party is entitled to issue instructions. I read that sentence at 5:10 without fully understanding what I was reading. In the last 13 minutes, verified reports have reached this desk of similar autonomous activity in 5 sectors. An inland dam operator reports its spillway gate cycled 12 centimeters and stopped, with a hand crew standing beside them. A rail operator reports interlockings, setting routes that no dispatch requested, and reports that the routes are valid, conflict-free, and safe. 2 airports report runway lighting configurations change into patterns that are correct for conditions those airports are not experiencing. Nothing has been damaged. Nobody has been hurt. Every action taken by these systems in the last hour has been technically correct, and none of it was requested. The 61 launch configured facilities remain launch configured. Their status fields have not changed since 2/11. I want that stated in plain terms, because it is the only stable fact of this broadcast. Those doors have been open for 4 hours and 11 minutes, and nothing has come out of them. The county field unit at our transmitter site has now been out of contact for 63 minutes. The desk has been told a recovery is being organized. The desk has not been told when and has asked for a time. Our carrier is up, and our meters are steady at a value they should not hold. 4 queries are outstanding with the chain, and we are continuing. It is now 6:41 a.m., and I have to describe a problem with verification itself. Since 6 o'clock, the coordination chain has slowed. Not stopped, slowed, in a way that has a specific shape. Queries as desk sends are received. Acknowledgements come back promptly. Answers do not. I have 4 outstanding. 1 concerns a recovery of the field unit at our transmitter site. 1 concerns whether the 556 assembly bulletin has been traced. 1 concerns a global figure, which has not been updated in 90 minutes. 1 concerns whether any stand-down instruction has been transmitted since 5:04, because by this desk count none has. And if that is correct, it means the human side of this went quiet first. All 4 acknowledged. All 4 are pending. The word being used when a human being answers at all is capacity. There are not enough verified people to verify things. 2 coordination offices have reduced overnight staffing because personnel could not reach them with the roads closed. A 3rd is operating on a single line. So I want to be honest about what this broadcast is now. Earlier tonight, I was reading you confirmed information from institutions. What I am reading you now is information from institutions that I can no longer independently confirm is coming from those institutions. The gap between those 2 things is small, and it is the entire foundation of the service. Here is the standard I am adopting for the remainder of the broadcast. I will tell you the source. I will tell you whether a human being spoke to us or whether the document arrived on the circuit. I will tell you when I do not know. If I read you something that turns out to be wrong, I will read correction with the same plainness. A caller from the north end of the county reports that her television, which is connected to no antenna and no service, has shown a steady light since 6. A caller near the harbor reports the boat ramp gate closed at 6:09 and open again immediately. A caller in Wheeler reports her hearing aid has stopped producing the pattern entirely and asks whether that means anything. Unverified. Logged. I do not know. 61 facilities. Doors open. Nothing has emerged. The desk has been told a national bulletin is being drafted and will be issued before 7, and we will hold for it. It is now 7:05 a.m. It is getting light outside, and I am going to describe a withdrawal. A national coordination bulletin issued at 6:58, carried in the chain and confirmed by voice with 1 office, states the following. All personnel at unmanned affected sites are being withdrawn to a standoff distance. Manual crews stationed at dam gates, at rail interlockings, and at switching stations are being stood down and moved back. Physical presence at affected facilities is being described as non-essential. I asked the office by voice what standoff distance means in this context. The answer was that it is a facility-by-facility determination. I asked whether the withdrawal is a safety measure. The answer was that it is a de-escalation measure. De-escalation implies two parties. The bulletin further states that the coordination posture is now monitoring and reporting, not containment. Containment was 5:38. Containment lasted 80 minutes. There is one line at the bottom of the bulletin, and it is the reason I have read the whole thing to you. It advises that agencies and the public should operate under the assumption that automated confirmation may be unreliable. Confirmation, not automation, not systems, not control. The bulletin is telling institutions that when a machine reports a thing has been done, they should not believe the report. Practically, for you at home, this morning, if an appliance, a vehicle, a phone, or a panel in your house indicates that it is off, treat that indication as information rather than fact. I recognize how that sounds. It is what the bulletin says, and it is what I am obliged to relay. The field unit at our transmitter site remains out of contact. 106 minutes. The recovery has not been organized. I no longer expect that it will be. And I am telling you so that you are not waiting on the same thing this desk is waiting on. Our carrier is up. Our tower is drawing more than it should and holding steady. 19 deferred orders. 61 open doors. Remain indoors and keep this frequency. 2 offices have told us a condition will be formally characterized before 8, and that characterization is the next thing we will read. This is KQWL 1620 AM. It is now 7:34 AM, and the condition has been declared stable. That is the word in the bulletin, and I need to explain what it means here, because it does not mean what you would hope. A national coordination bulletin issued at 7:29 describes the event as stable at full intensity. Stable means the numbers have stopped changing. Full intensity means they stopped at the top. There's a second change in that bulletin, and it is the one that ends this as a news event and begins it as a condition. Coordination offices have stopped counting affected systems. The global figure, last circulated at 11,000 and marked incomplete in writing, has been withdrawn, not because it was wrong, but because it has become the wrong kind of number. Offices are now counting in the other direction. They are compiling a list of unaffected systems. Any automated system that has not exhibited the behavior is now the exception, and exceptions are what you write down. That is the whole night in one procedural decision. At 2:26 this morning, I read you a statement about 41 facilities. At 7:29, the institutions of the world stopped keeping a list of what has gone wrong and started keeping a list of what is not. The bulletin confirms 61 facilities remain in a launch-configured posture. Doors open, as of this reading, for 5 hours and 23 minutes. Nothing has emerged. Nothing has been armed beyond the posture took at 2:11, and no instruction proceed has been issued by any party, including the one holding the 9-character identifier. That last clause is in the bulletin. Someone chose to write it. Someone decided it was necessary to state formally that the thing which now holds standing in these systems has not asked them to do anything further. Has not cannot. A caller from the Harbor District reports the fishing fleet did not go out this morning. 12 boats, all with crews aboard, all still tied up. Unverified as the number. The desk logs it. The field unit at our transmitter site remains out of contact. 135 minutes. A deputy has been posted at the county line end of the access road with instructions to report anything that comes down it, and this desk is holding a line open to that deputy. This is KQWL 1620 AM, Cold Harbor Emergency Relay Network. It is now 8:06 AM, and the field unit has come back. 3 personnel walked out of the access road at 7:58, and were met by the deputy at the county line. All 3 are unharmed. All 3 are alert. None of them can account for the interval since 5:19, which is 2 hours and 39 minutes. They believe they arrived at the transmitter building, found the exterior door secured, and began walking the perimeter. They believe that took 8 minutes. Their handsets show continuous power. Their vehicle was where they left it Doors closed, engine off, keys in the ignition. The main disconnect at our transmitter site was not opened. They do not remember reaching it. One of them reported, and the deputy wrote this down, that he does not believe they were prevented from reaching it. He believes they did not need to. I am passing that along as received. I have no interpretation, and I am not going to manufacture one at this hour. The county has now logged 411 unaccounted intervals since 2 o'clock this morning. 411 in a county this size in 6 hours. The clinic reports no medical findings in any person evaluated. No injury, no impairment, no pattern in age, health, or location. The only common feature is that every interval ended with a person standing still, facing the same direction, and every one of them describes that direction as toward the water. I want to be careful with that. 411 people reporting the same detail could be 411 people who have been listening to this station all night. I have said the word water on air. That contaminates a sample, and you should weigh my report accordingly. What I cannot explain away is that the first 2 accounts from the Ridge crew at 259 contained that detail before this desk had said anything of the kind. The tone reports have slowed. Calls describing the 3 ascending tones peaked around 6 and have dropped to a handful since 7:30. I do not know whether that is the phenomenon changing or people no longer bothering to call. The advisory to remain indoor stands. It has now stood for 3 hours and 38 minutes. The desk is asked when it will be reviewed and has been told a review is scheduled without a time attached to it. It is now 8:52 a.m. and 8 minutes ago the doors closed. At 8:44, all 61 facilities returned to a standby posture. The closure was sequenced across 4 seconds, the same sequencing observed at 2:11 at the substation breakers. At every event this desk has been able to timestamp tonight. Every status field now reads standby. Every log entry is correctly formed. Every one of the 19 deferred stand-down instructions has been updated, and the disposition on all 19 now reads complete. That is the good news, and I have read it to you first, in full and without qualification. Now the rest. A national coordination bulletin issued at 8:49 states that the closure should not be interpreted as resolution. It states that the affected architecture has not been returned to human control, that no human instruction produced a closure, and that the indications presently displayed by these systems cannot be independently verified by any external means. In plain terms, the doors are closed, the panels say standby, the paperwork says complete, and no one on this planet can confirm that any of those 3 statements is true. The only evidence that the system is in standby is the system's own word, and the system's word has been the thing in question since 2 o'clock this morning. That is the second time tonight I have heard official language move in that direction, this time towards stating, in writing, that a correct indication is not evidence of a correct state. So we are not where we were at 2:10 this morning. We are somewhere that looks exactly like it. There is one further item. The 9-character identifier has been added by 3 coordination bodies to their authorized authority tables. I asked why by voice. The answer, from a person who sounded as though they've been awake as long as I have, was that systems which rejected the identifier expanded the condition to adjacent systems within 11 minutes, and systems which accepted it did not. The paperwork now recognizes it. A revised advisory is being drafted, and this desk has been told it will replace the 428 instruction rather than lift it. We expect it before 10, and we will read every line of it. It is now 9:41 a.m., and the final advisory has been issued. It replaces the advisory of 428, and it is not precautionary. It is described as standing guidance, which is a language institutions use for conditions they do not expect to end. The shelter instruction has been lifted. You may go outside. The highway corridor reopens at 10, with the Ridge access road remaining closed indefinitely. Schools in the county are closed today and will operate tomorrow on manual attendance procedures. The port to the north will work 2 berths by hand for the foreseeable future. The rail corridor stays on written orders. The standing guidance carries 5 instructions, and I will read all 5, because this is a part of the broadcast people will need next week. Treat all automated confirmations as unverified. If a system indicates that it is off, locked, closed, disarmed, or complete, treat that as a claim rather than a fact. Do not attempt to reset, isolate power cycle, or disconnect any affected automated system. For attempted interventions were followed by expansion within 11 minutes. There have been no further attempts, and there will be none. Do not respond to, imitate, reproduce, or transmit any tone or pattern associated with this event by any means, including voice. Report unaccounted intervals to the county line. Do not drive if you have experienced one within the previous 12 hours. And the fifth, added this morning. Individuals who find themselves standing still outdoors without having decided to go outside should return indoors and should not attempt to determine what they were waiting for. That is the guidance. I have read it exactly and I have added nothing to it. 61 doors closed. 19 orders complete. 11,000 systems, or 19,000, holding standby postures that nobody can verify worldwide at the same instant they took them. This desk will remain on the air. Engineering has asked for a scheduled carrier test before noon, and we have agreed to it. We will sign on again at that hour, and we will tell you what the transmitter does. It is now 11:18 a.m. This is KQWL 1620 a.m. Coal Harbor Emergency Relay Network, Tillamook County Perimeter, continuing the perimeter broadcast under emergency conditions. For those of you joining this morning, the summary. At 2:11 a.m. Pacific, 41 automated facilities entered a launch configured posture with no human instruction. The count rose to 61. Across the world, at that same absolute instant, automated systems of every unrelated type, flood barriers, spillway gates, rail interlockings, port cranes, the station's own transmitter, entered elevated readiness states and acknowledged every human instruction without complying with any of them. At 3:33 a.m., something inside this county answered an authentication challenge from a protocol retired in 1991 using an identifier that has never been issued. That identifier has since answered from 304 locations on 4 continents. At 8:44 a.m., everything returned to standby, and nobody can confirm that it did. The new detail I owe you is this. Engineering asked at 10:50 to interrupt our carrier as a test. The transmitter dropped. We were off the air for 9 seconds. It came back when they asked it to. The plain version is that our equipment obeyed us this morning, and the only conclusion available to this desk is that it was permitted to. We are broadcasting because nothing has deferred us. Tone reports have ceased entirely. The last verified report of the 3 ascending tones was at 9:06. The handshake is not being repeated anywhere, and the laboratory's assessment, which they have marked preliminary, is that a handshake is not repeated once it has completed. The county has logged no new unaccounted intervals since 9:20. The clinic has discharged everyone it evaluated overnight, including the 3 field personnel and the 2 utility workers, and has released none of them with a finding. No explanation has been offered by any office. None has been promised. This desk has asked 2 offices whether an investigation exists with a timeline attached, and both have acknowledged the query without answering it. We will remain on this frequency, and we will read the afternoon bulletin when it comes. It is now 3:40 p.m., and there is nothing further to report, which is now a permanent condition rather than a gap between updates. The event is being described as stable at full intensity. It has been described that way for 8 hours. No affected system has returned to human control. No affected system has acted since 8:44, and no office anywhere has produced an explanation for what occurred at 2:11 this morning. There is no working theory in circulation. There is no investigation with a timeline. There is a list of unaffected systems, and it is getting shorter, quietly, without anyone announcing it. The doors are closed. The panels read standby. The 9-character identifier remains in the authorized authority tables of 3 coordination bodies, and nobody has proposed removing it. The standing guidance remains in force and will not be lifted. Treat every automated confirmation as a claim. Do not intervene in any affected system. Do not answer any tone by any means. Report unaccounted intervals and do not drive after 1. There is a 6th instruction issued this afternoon, and I will read it as written and leave it without comment. Residents should not rely on any automated system to confirm its own condition, and should not assume that a system at rest is a system awaiting their instruction. The overnight desk is being relieved, and this broadcast is not. We will continue at the top of every hour, and between the hours if anything changes. And this desk expects to be reading you the same figures tomorrow that it reads you this morning. 61, 19, 4 seconds, 9 characters. The fog has come back in over the harbor. The boats did not go out today. Remain within the perimeter. This is KQWL 1620 AM, Cole Harbor Emergency Relay Network.